Sure. Shalom, family. Welcome once again to I guess we could call this the Shabbat evening or pre-Shabbat evening talk. Once again, I'm your host, and I'm joined once again by Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah, who will be highlighting certain points from last week's portion, which was key Tavo. He's been doing this consistently for some weeks, and all glory to the Creator of heaven and earth, the one who makes all things and everything. And I won't take up any more of your time, and I'll pass it on to Nasik Zurishaddai. Shalom, shalom.
Torah about. First of all, giving praises to this premature universe, God, my forefathers, God Abraham, God Ishak, God Yaakov, and due respect to the Chief Prince Ariel, who also my condolences to the family once again, online for the loss of his in-law, father-in-law, and all due respect to the host, Chief Uzal, and all the other chief men, brothers and sisters from D.C.B. will allow me this opportunity to be part of their platform, and all the people that's outside, brothers and sisters, that take the time out their schedule to look and hear my words concerning Torah. Any mistakes, will be purely my own. I'm just here trying to share some insight and review. So Adonai Sabtadi Takopia Giti Adeka, Lord, I'll put down my lips, my mouth should declare that praise. I'd like to go back a little bit and just a little bit more from last, the Sidra before, Kitase. All right, now Kitase, we know it had a lot of different laws in there. It had, 74 laws in there out of 613 laws, statutes, and judgment that we have in there. And that pretty much covers a lot of portions dealing with the weaker members of society, per se. A woman, a captive woman. It talks about timely payments. Get men, everybody getting their wages on a daily basis, and one sums it up with your harvest, the corners of the field, and that's for the widow, the fatherless, and the stranger. Now, key, when we go out to war, let's talk about from when we go out to war. Now, when we come into the land, but the word key itself in Hebrew being a preposition, I just say because now, and because we had to go out to war, these things come about, and because now in key Tavo, we're going to land. So that means that because we're going to the land, it's certain rules and regulations that we must adhere to. And so a lot of times we, like I said earlier in one of my talks, we tend to get to a spot and then come up with rules. But the Creator had rules already in place before we even get into the spot. And Moses in this particular time giving us continually giving us a charge. So this basically is, around his third discourse. And it's also the sixth week of comfort, which was last week. For the Haftorah, because most of the Haftorahs do those particular time, the 7 weeks of comforting, is because we're getting ready to approach that particular time of Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur. So, in this particular Kitavo, they have a lot of interesting things in there, and I just would just like to point out that we come to a point in our history and time that we actually have, we said the 40 years is over it, and then now we really understand what it is to be a Hebrew, Ivri, one that crosses over from the other side. So we're about ready to cross over into the Jordan, And that's when we get ready to go into the land. And before we cross over, we had some more charges coming from Moshe, who's not able to cross over with us into the land. So being a Hebrew also means to be able to, to cross over, come from the other side, one from the other side, be able to overcome. And the wilderness experience as we're going through, when we talk about the wilderness, the 40 years, it becomes not just our time of purging, as you would say, if it was a such thing as a purgatory or anything, but the wilderness and the desert that we was in was that it teaches us that in life, metaphorically, that sometimes you gotta go through some hard times. You go some real rugged times, and it would seem like it'd be endless. But if you persevere, you could still hold on and maintain. So now they at the 40th years, and as I go on, Moses still has some things he want to bring out in this particular thing. So the wilderness represent physical and spiritual, enemy. That's something to overcome. And then we got promises, promises for obedience, and then we got divine protection, and then, basically when we get into the 28th chapter, pretty much, or throughout the book, you got about 98 chilling, curses and stuff like that, drama that gonna come upon us. That's a lot, 98, for not obeying the Creator. And then there's always a thing about talking about our quality as well. So I'm just going to skip by just a little bit. Say so. So in Tavo, dealing with agricultural laws and laws of the first fruit, formulations of the covenant between the Creator and Israel, and the third discourse. I'm just going to start from the beginning but I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to hit certain points here and there, because the teachers I've seen spoke very well on this particular topic. But so I'm gonna gloss over some things and focus on others. But I'm gonna start from the beginning, because anytime you do a review, you want to kind of get a recap of what really started in the beginning, of the particular Sidra. So I'm starting the 26th chapter, and this Sidra goes from the 26th chapter 1 to 29:8. So I'm gonna start at 26:1. If you
Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 1.
Yes.
And it shall be, when thou art come in unto the land which Yehudah thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, and doth possess it, and dwell therein, that thou shalt take of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which thou shalt bring in from thy land that Yehudah thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt put it in a basket, and shalt go unto the place which Yehudah thy God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there.
Okay. Now, one interesting term is the place, hamakom. And a lot of times that's not only means where the Mishkan may be, or where the Beit Hamikdash may be. 99.9% of the time is where the Mishkan might be, or 99.9% of the time it might be where the Beit Hamikdash, the temple, might be. But when you talk about hamakom, the place, is wherever the Creator decide this is where I am at. So sometimes the place hamakom could be synonymous with the Creator Himself. I would give you an example of after we had the Mishkan and after we had the Beit Hamikdash, that during the time of Elijah the prophet Eliyahu, when he had the contest between the people, or the prophets of Baal and those 400 prophets, and he built the altar, but he built the altar at Mount Carmel. Yet the temple was still standing. It hadn't been destroyed. It wasn't being used, in its prophet's manner, but it hadn't been destroyed. Yet he had the altar outside, and it was a contest between him and idolatry worship. So, but before even that, before he even got to that spot, when the men came to get him, he said, if I be a man of God, let fire come down, and consume you. And then also, one of the things is history, when he ran after that encounter at Mount Carmel, that he was in a cave, and the Creator asked what he's doing here. And then he talked about the whirlwind, the tempest, and then he talked about a murmuring voice, the unique voice that God was in the voice. So when we talk about Hamakom, first thing is where the Beit HaMikdash is, which is the temple. But more important, where can we find the Creator? And that's really the actual place. So when the creative presence leaves a particular area, then that area is no longer sacred. Right. The sanctity and the sacredness of the area, from when we came out of Egypt, Mount Sinai was the sacred area because the Creator came down and spoke upon Mount Sinai. So when we think about Makom, we just can't gloss over it and say, it's at that spot because that's the Mishkan is there. It's at that spot because the Beit HaMikdash is there, the temple is there. It's wherever the Creator is. Even in Isaiah's vision, he stood in the court of the Most High. So that's really what we talk about Hamakom on the spiritual and a higher level. All right. We can proceed just a little bit more on
that. Verse 3. And thou shalt come unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto Yehudah thy God, that I am come unto the land which Yehovah swore unto our fathers to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of thy hand, and set it down before the altar of Yehovah thy God. And thou shalt speak and say before Yehovah thy God, a wandering Aramean was my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and he became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians, yes.
Okay. All right. So that is what happens there with and this individual about my father. You will say, first off, you will say, I'm the one bringing this, not my father. I'm the one got these first fruits, not my father. So what do my father have to do with me bringing these first fruits? And why God want me, when I bring these first fruits that I worked on, to make this profess these words out, before him about my father who's long dead. And the thing is that a wandering Aramean is like an attitude of gratitude. If the Creator had not did what he did for our father Yaakov, then the rest of Israel would never have been here. And some books have said, seek to said they destroyed them, but the thing was, it was like seeking to destroy them. All right, and then just a little bit more. Read on just a little bit more on that, and then we're gonna skip over.
Thou shalt speak, and verse 6, and the Egyptians dealt ill with us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us hard bondage. And we cried unto Yehovah, the God of our fathers, and Yehovah heard our voice, and saw our affliction, and our toil, and our oppression. And Yehovah brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs, and with wonders. And he hath brought us into this place, and hath given us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey.
All right, that's good right there. That's enough of that. All right, that's enough of that. One of the things is that Moses talking to him, but they haven't even crossed over. But when you cross over, you're going to remember all your history. See, we as Black people in this country, we have very, very little history we could go back on, that we know about ourselves and our family members. So, that's why we have family reunions to try to say who's part of the family now, who's not part of the family, who's a real a near uncle, and who's just an uncle because we call him uncle because out of respect. Who's cousin, who's a real cousin, who's not a cousin. But the thing is that family history is important, and it's so important, and what the Creator did for you in your family history, and having that kind of gratitude for what he did for you in the past, and you being blessed in your present time, you acknowledge him not only for your present time, but the first thing you say, a wandering Aramean. So you're not even saying a blessing because I got the fruit now.
Right.
We going back and talking about your history that got me to this point. And that's how when people say, oh man, that's old days, that's old school, that's the Bible, they did it back then. I know, yeah, our history is important, because if you don't know where you come from, then you have very little idea of where you're going to go. Because now you really don't know. If you don't know where you come from, you really don't know who you are. And knowing who you are is important. But we're going to skip over here to go to I think we're going to skip down to 26:18.
26, chapter 26, verse 18.
Yeah.
And Yehodah have avouched thee this day to be his own treasure, as he had promised thee, that thou shouldest keep all his commandments.
Okay, now, that just one, that's good enough right there. I had avouched thee this day to be his own treasure. Now, the word segula, segula. I hear that, passed around a lot. And treasure. And when we talk about a treasure, and because we read about it back in Exodus, being a kingdom of priests in his own peculiar treasure. All right. It's not an intrinsic value, that we're talking about, because that's why I wanted to focus here for a moment, because the thing is, we wasn't the greatest. We wasn't the most. We wasn't the most powerful. Each one of those wicked nations that was in the land of Canaan that we had to drive out, and the Creator going to drive out before us, each one of them individually and every level was better than we were, on a physical level,
right,
on an intellectual level,
right.
So they were, each one of those nations were greater. So when we talk about segula, what do that mean? It means say, well, compared to gold and silver, or gold and diamonds, or silver to brass. It does mean it in that sense? No. Something could be a treasure to you simply because you find it valuable, not that it has value on the open market. And that's one of the things about knowing about what it is to be a segula. And the word segul is this word for purple, which is a color that's used mostly amongst royalty. And so, the Creator look at us as being royal to him, valuable to him. Sometimes you may have an item in your house. It has no real market value, but it's valuable because it was given to you by somebody.
Right.
Sometimes people say, well, so-and-so signed this, my autograph my book, autograph this, autograph that. Hopefully it might have some value, market value in the future. But basically, you have it, it has value to you from the start, whether it has market value or not, at this particular time. So we as a people, as the peculiar treasure to the Most High God, is not because we work our weight in gold, but to the Creator, we has a market value. And then to him, we are precious. And because we are relic from the past. What past are we a relic from? The patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, we're their descendants. So that becomes a relic to the Creator because of those patriarchs, because of our forefathers, and then that wandering Aramean was the last of the patriarchs. Them guys there, that's what make us precious to the Creator. And one of the things that we got to understand sometime when we analyze ourselves is that $100 bill, you can find it on the street crumbled up, all dirty, and sometimes it tears and rips in it, but is still intact. Do it loses any value?
Nope.
The $100 bill doesn't loses any value. It's still worth $100.
Right.
Even dirty, stained, marked up, and everything. If you could pull it and see
Taped
it's
up.
still a $100 bill,
Yeah.
it's worth a $100 bill, just like one is crisp clean. So I'm saying that to say that we being a peculiar treasure is that we may not be shine like the next individual. Sometimes you say, well, I don't think much of myself. I don't see no value in me. I've been told I was ugly. I was told I was fat. I was told I was too skinny. I was told I was too black. I was told that, you know what I mean, my hair, you know what I mean, ain't curly, you know what I mean, my teeth don't look so polished. And so you might feel outwardly, intrinsically, that I have no value. But to the Creator, all Israel, no matter where you're from, no matter where you come from, we have that value. Whether we are wrinkled up $100 bill and the other $100 bill look fresh off the mint, we still have a value as far as the Creator concerned, because we become His peculiar treasure, no matter how it be. So we're gonna move on from there, and you know, and so that's a precious thing as we come into Yom Kippur. So, and the reason I wanted to focus on that, because as we come into the month of Ethanim, and we started approaching Yom Kippur, that it's important for us to have a sense of, I'm able to return. I'm able to get closer to the Creator, because I'm not, I know, we've been told that you can't even measure up to the bootstraps of your forefathers. You know, and if you're told that you can't measure up to the bootstraps of your forefathers, then what's the sense of looking to the rock from which I was, I was hewn, and the pit from which I was dug, if I can't even achieve something of that? So we can't have a dismal viewpoint of ourselves, and we shouldn't put a dismal viewpoint on others, because we're endowed with the image and divine spark of the Creator. And as we approach closer to that particular time, we got to constantly think of that and see that, not only in ourselves, but in others as well. We're going to move on just a little bit. And I'd like to focus on the 27. Let's go to 27th chapter. Let me see. I want to speak on there. Around 11. We'll start from the 11th verse, 27th chapter, 11th verse of Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 11.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Moshe charged the people the same day, saying, These shall stand upon Mount Gerizim to bless the people when you are come over the Jordan. Shimon, Lewi, Yehudah, Yissaschar, Yosef, Benjamin. And these shall stand upon Mount Ebal to curse. Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. And the Levites shall speak.
Okay.
And say to all the men of Israel with a loud voice. All right.
All right, there. I'm not going to go through all the curses, because everybody did that pretty much. But I wanted to point out a particular point there, that those 6 tribes, we don't know directly if the Creator told them to stand on that mountain. We know directly that Moshe charged them to stand upon that mountain, on them 6, and 6 on one and 6 on the other. But what the uniqueness is that, you know, some people might think Ephraim and Manasseh, which one of them stood for Joseph, or both of them together? Because it's supposed to have been 6. See, so sometimes when we talk about the breastplate and the stones in the breastplate, it was only 12, and Levi's stone was upon it, and Joseph's stone was on it, but it was no Ephraim and Manasseh stone. And on this mount, you had the tribe of Joseph, sometimes, as we read in the past during Numbers, you know, Manasseh is ascribed to Joseph, and sometimes Ephraim is ascribed to Joseph. But we know they both are the children of Joseph, and Joseph wound up being a double portion. So, and when we had the staffs, the rods that was chosen for the priesthood, it was 12 rods. Aaron rod was amongst it. So most people think it was 13 rods. No, it was just 12 rods in total. And Joseph, who I don't know who name might have been on Joseph rod, but the rod of Joseph was there, and Aaron rod was for the tribe of Levi and for the priesthood. So I wanted to use that to bring out a point that, you know, the Levites themselves had to be on the mountain. It's not at the top necessarily, but on the mountain. And other 6 tribes on the other mountain. And like I said earlier, that the mountain with the curses was the nicer looking mountain. The mountain with the blessings was more of a bland looking mountain. But the thing is that, and the enumeration is 11 curses enumerated here. And you say, well, wow, you know, they wanted you to consider a certain thing, as opposed to the blessings. Blessings is easy to maintain. If we're gonna move straight on to the 28th chapter of Devarim. And
28th chapter.
Yes, we're gonna skip over there. 28, yes. And I just pick up from the 9th verse.
28 verse 9. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yehudah shall establish you as a holy people to himself, as he has sworn to you, if you shall keep the commandments of Yehudah your God and walk in his ways.
Okay.
And all the people of the earth. All right.
Okay. Well, that's basically what I want to focus on. You know, the other part, we tend to remember all the other people recognizing us. That part is easy, so I don't need to speak on it that much, because sometimes in our vanity, you know, our insanity brings out some of our vanity, because the Creator said, "Oh, I'm Segula, the peculiar treasure of God." You know, hey, yeah, you got to respect us. You got to know us. You know who we are.
Right.
You know, it's for us to know who we are first, and that's what we need to focus on, for us to know who we are. But one of the things I like to speak on is about this particular portion. It teaches you how to imitate the Creator. And you say, well, I can imitate the Creator. You know, when they talk about walking in His ways. Walking in His ways, he said, how can I walk in the Creator's ways when He's God and I'm not God? Being compassionate, being loving, being just and righteous. Those are divine attributes. And when we, exhibit and perform those divine attributes of the Creator, then we actually imitating Him and walking in His ways. Now, are we God? With a very, 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 very small g, in that respect, because we have creativity and we have the ability to isolate something, to sanctify something, and say this is dedicated for a particular purpose. So, and the purpose is outside of us, not in us. So we have those abilities and we have that quality. But this shows that we can imitate the Creator. Now in the 28th chapter, especially when it comes up, this most Israelites we love this, because the so-called white Jewish community don't claim they go through all this stuff that we do. We refer to, when I came up, as the mirror of the black man in America. In that 28th chapter, about how and what mirror do we see? We don't see the blessings as the mirror. of the black man in America. We see those curses from the 15th verse, from the 16th verse on as the mirror of the black man in America. You know, and somewhat rightfully so, because it's hard and very difficult for us to identify with those blessings in the early part, not really quite knowing and understanding this creator. But we can definitely identify with the problems on the other side. So those are some of the things that you know, we got to consider as you know, as Israelites. And most times when you try to convince people that, especially the so-called black people that's from the ex-slavery in America or in the Caribbean and different parts of the islands of South America or the Isthmus of Panama and stuff like that, you know, we use those to say, we didn't come over here on an ocean cruise for a vacation. We didn't come over here looking for a promised land. You know, we came over here, you know, as slaves, you know, not even as refugees. So we could identify more with the curses that's in Deuteronomy 28 chapter. I'd like to just go to the 28 and 54. I think that's what I wrote down. 28, 54 in that particular verse. If you got that, Chief.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, 54.
Yes.
Let me scroll down to it. In the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 54.
All right, better yet, hold it. Go from wait, better yet, go one up, 53.
53. Deuteronomy 28, 53. And you shall eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and of your daughters, which Jehovah your God has given you, in the siege and in the distress,
straight,
with which your enemy shall distress you, so that the man who is most tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother, and towards the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave, so that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children, whom he shall eat when he has nothing left, because of the siege and the distress with which your enemy shall distress you in all your gates.
Okay, going a little bit further, just a little bit further.
The tender and delicate woman among you, which will not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter, and towards her afterbirth that cometh out from between her feet, and towards her children whom she shall bear. For she shall eat them secretly for want of all things, in the siege and distress with which your enemy shall distress you in your gates.
All right, that's good enough. That's good enough
If
right
you
there.
will not take...
That's good enough. That's good enough, Chief. That's good enough right there.
All right. All right.
I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I mean, like I said, I skipped down enough, and there's a lot more. But you don't need to say beat that dead horse to death, you know. But one of the things is that Moshe is telling us all this here in Deuteronomy 28 chapter. Now, most of us heard this over and over again for years, and those that might be first timers listening to maybe me or other brothers in Deuteronomy 28 chapter, you know, take your time and go over. It's a long chapter, one of the longest chapters in the CHOKMAH, which means the first 5 books, and about 6-9 verses, I believe. And the thing is that the blessings is only about 15 verses, and you say, well, why only 15 verses dealing with blessings, and all these verses dealing with the curses? Because when a person is blessed, you know, you don't have to convince them that they're blessed. You know, you don't have to, everything is rolling smooth. But when a person is being cursed, sometimes you don't know how bad could be. And bad could be bad, worse, more worse, and then tragic. You know, so the thing is that talking about cannibalism. Now, what I was discussing with Maisha, you know, a while ago, I said, what make you think the people listening to this at this particular time, I mean, they was warned by Moshe before they about ready to cross over in the 40th year. Why they didn't think that would ever happen? Cannibalism. Because we read about some of the atrocities that they dealt with in Egypt. And we read about some of the atrocities that they dealt with in the land of Canaan. But we didn't hear about this cannibalism stuff on either side. We didn't hear about people eating up people in Egypt, and they had a famine when we went there. And we didn't hear about people eating up people in the land of Canaan, and they had famines there. So they, now not saying that whole world, no, I'm just saying in reference to the children of Israel. You hearing this prophecy about things will get so bad that you're going to turn to cannibalism, that they had no experience and nobody they could identify with this kind of situation. That you would turn, no matter how hungry you get, and say, "Oh, I think, well, that brother look kind of thick there, but he ain't gonna make it long. He ain't gonna make it long. Then we can make it a day or two off him." And that's so repulsive that they could say, "Well, we gonna do that? We that the Creator did all this from? We who from the stock of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? We who the Creator marched through this wilderness all this time? We gonna fall that low? We gonna stoop to that? Where that a guy that's timid gonna need this person it be turned to cannibalism, and a mother going to eat their own child?" And then we read about it during the time of Ahab, when the two women had made an agreement and said, "Oh, we eat my baby today, and tomorrow we eat yours." And they went through it, and then the other woman hid a child. The irony is not so much that they ate the child together. The irony is not even so much that the other woman had hid a child. The irony is that they wanted justice from the king. That's why we.
It's like it was accept.
Yeah. So look here. I want justice because I've been shortchanged. Not thinking of the atrocity that is done. That doesn't matter. We both ate the child. That doesn't matter. We both shared and enjoyed ourselves. That doesn't matter what the child was and how the child feels, whatever the case is, or the moral or godly principle in it. And yet, Moshe told him that centuries ago. So we could understand how some people could do so much wrong, so much out of pattern, that they say, "I want justice on this," not thinking about the crime around that. And that's where, we see these things in the book, and that's one of the hardest of the things we went through as a people, as a Black people, being disobedient to our Creator. We didn't realize how bad could get bad, and bad could be worse, and worse could be tragic. Because that's a tragic situation. Because even after that, I wonder how the king didn't even adjudicate the case. And yet, how do the people live with themselves after that? Knowing you ate your own child. You was more concerned about your survival than trying to help your offspring. But then on a lower scale, and I just want to bring this out on a lower scale, is that Lamech named his son Noah because said, "Through him we will find comfort." And when you say, "Through Noah, I'm going to find comfort," that means usually the parents look out for the son, not for the son to look out for the parents. You know, they build up the son so he could be self-sufficient. But Lamech said, this guy here, Noah, gonna make it easier for us. So you're looking for a better life through his son instead of him making a better life for his son. So just think about that from Genesis before the deluge. You can imagine how the people was on the other side of that. And then hearing about some of the curses about cannibalism, and you said, wow, people that didn't even have that kind of character to go that low. But so much for that. A lot of brothers, you know, beat that one to death too. And rightfully so, as we come down and think about how low we can go, how low we can fall. Let's go to the 29th chapter. We're going to start from the top, Chief.
Chapter 29 from the top.
Yes, yes.
Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Moshe called to all Yisrael and said to them, you have seen all that Yehudah did before your eyes in the land of Mizraim to Paro, to all his servants and to all his land. The great trials which your eyes have seen, the signs and those great miracles. Yet Yehudah has not given you a heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear until this day. And I have led you 40 years.
All right, just one moment. All right. That means only 40 years now. See, in the Hebrew, you see it clear, you know, and use of the term, you know, ad hayom hazeh. All right. So, you know, I mean, you know, until today, this day, that means now we see why we had to be in the wilderness for 40 years. Before that, we wondering, why I keep moving around here? Where all this stuff we've been hearing about, the Passover? What about all this stuff we're talking about, the promised land? What all this stuff about the inheritance of our forefathers? I mean, we've been marching around 40 years. Sometimes we've been over here for a little while, stuff like that there. I mean, living this desert and nomadic life. What all them stories we've been hearing? I mean, what's the purpose of this? I mean, Moses has been teaching us all this time. So, you know, I really don't understand why God bringing us through all this stuff. I mean, is he sure what he know what he's doing? But not only Moses bringing this to him, he let him know, now you see why you had to stay there for 40 years. Now you see why you went through this stuff for 40 years, and he's not even finished with them yet. Go on, Chief.
Hold on, give me a second.
Okay.
Verse
4.
And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not worn old upon you, and your shoe is not worn old upon your foot. You have not eaten bread, neither have you drunk wine or strong drink, that you might know that I am Yehudah your God.
Well,
when
right
you come,
that's just good enough right there. That says it all for me for the night. I led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes is not waxing old upon you, and that shoe is not waxing old upon that foot. You have not eaten bread, neither have you drunk wine or strong drinks, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. All right, so that was make sure you have a clear head. But one of the miracles is that, and it's pretty much just why I made sure I dressed the way I dressed tonight for this particular talk, because this outfit I have on Benny Zakin logo. So this is more than 40 years old, and it ain't. I had to reline, you know, one time, and I might have to reline again. And I had I got a nice amount of clothes. So back then they might have had maybe 5 changes of garments, and most of us today are somewhat blessed where we have far more than 5 changes of garments. But this outfit here is older than most of my kids, you know. And this shirt here I'm wearing is, you know, is close to 20 years old. This shirt I'm wearing right now, and this turban is about 18 years. And you know, this brings from the late Chief Counsel read the book. My wife gave it to me at his funeral. got some decades on it. This pinky ring I got from my high school years. My earring when I was like 16. So, sometimes things will have, so deeds become a segula to me, a peculiar treasure to me because of the time I was in. But Moshe said, your clothes, and I'm using that to say that that clothes last for us sometimes, long time, but more so, you didn't get out of shape. Because if I'm wearing the same outfits, my waist haven't got too big over the years. I'm still wearing, pretty much the same size pants. So that means that their feet didn't swell. You're wearing the same size shoes for 40 years. That means, and you're walking, you're traveling. So you didn't have bad feet. Your clothing, didn't have a serious funky smell. And it brings out a lot of other information as well. One of the information that it brings out is that if you didn't drink wine or strong drinks, and yet we know that you had to have a drink offering with all sacrifices, then where you get the wine from? We didn't drink it, but then we didn't pass a lot of grapevines either. Last time we had some grapes, I think, when 40 years when they went to the land, they brought back some fruit of the land when the scouts went out. So we can understand a lot of things just from this here particular verse. Is that Moshe only theoretically did what he could do for those 40 years in the wilderness. Get into the land. When we read this, we understand more so that I never got a chance to see how the drink offering is done directly. I haven't got a chance to bring up the baskets of fruits because I didn't have no fruits, no wheat, no barley, no pomegranates, no olives, no date honey or figs. I didn't have that to bring to the Creator all that time of the tithes of the land. I wasn't able to do that because we out here in the desert. So now all these things I'm teaching and all these things we are being taught is only being theoretical for most of the parts because very few of it we could implement at that time and place. So no bread, they had to worry about unleavened bread. Manna and the meat. There's always a debate whether the quails was every day, continually, or just that one time. That I leave for the other scholars to debate one way or the other on it. But the thing is that a clean, clear head, and with a clean, clear head, with no intoxicating forces within our body, we still acted crazy from time to time for the 40 years. We still acted stubborn and rebellious for a 40-year period. Even Moshe tell him in the 40 years, you still stiff-necked and rebellious. 40 years later. So now, imagine if we was a drinker. Imagine we had a whole lot of stuff to keep us, in a bad light. And right. One of the greatest things about the 40 close of 40 years, what's this show unique, is that, and they talk about, and they used to say your clothes and your shoes. Now we know the Kohen don't have shoes that's made for him, but one of the greatest things is see us father to see his son step in his role. In the 5th month on Rosh Chodesh, in the 40th year, just a few more months before they cross over, had was able to see his son stripped down and put on his very clothes on his body and step into his role as a high priest before the true and living God. So sometimes people look at old clothes like, I don't want to wear that. That was my father's, man. That ain't my style. That ain't my flavor. Man, blah, 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 And they had to be close to the same size. for the clothes to be fit properly.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So that means that Aharon, even when he's getting ready to die and leave this world, he had one of the greatest joys of seeing his son filling his shoes, so to speak, even though the priests don't have shoes. And that is a great thing that a father like to see. You know, that your children, your offspring could go beyond where you went. Right. And so imagine the clothes Aaron had was at 39 years old, because they didn't get the priest stuff until after the tabernacle was erected to, you know, pretty much, you know, the second year. That's when they officiated the second year in the month of Aviv. So we know that at least it's 39 plus. So you could just round it off for 40 years old garment, and his son Eliezer gonna wear them same garments and officiate in them same garments, even though he has his own priestly garments, but now he got the high priest garments on. So the thing is that the Creator said, I preserved you all that time. You didn't notice that you was healthy. You didn't notice that your clothes didn't wax old. You know, this Moshe would bring it to the people. You didn't notice that you know your clothes didn't wax old. You didn't notice that you was healthy all that time. You didn't notice that you had the faculties to think straight, but you went crooked. And these type of things here, you know. And today I'm bringing this to you, so I'm enlightening you this day. So that means they got all this information today. So with that, I hope you got something out of what I said. You know, any mistakes been my own. I try to be a little brief this trip. And I thank brothers from D.C.B. and stuff like that, and People's L for taking the time out to allow me to share.
Hallelujah.
Any mistakes been my own.
Prince, one question. Do you feel that and on the last point that you was making, do you really feel like they only made one priest garment throughout the history of the high priest, or they made more?
Well, I'm sure they made maybe more throughout the history of the high priest. I'm sure they made more. That's obvious. But that first one that they had, it was such a level that the Creator told Aharon's son with Moses to escort Aaron up to that mountain, and put them on then.
Right, I got that point.
Yeah. But I'm sure they had, you know, others. You know, he had a little wardrobe too. I'm sure he had a wardrobe being a Kohen.
Right.
But everybody didn't really have a wardrobe as enough. Because we noticed that Joseph gave his brothers a change of garments because they rent theirs, and he gave Benjamin 5 changes of garments. And especially if you are living as a nomad and traveling, you know, it ain't like you're going, you know, sharp all the time. You know, you got your traveling clothes on most of the times. And you know, so besides washing up and washing your clothes, that's how you roll back then. You know, today we have a luxury. A matter of fact, before we leave, I just share. I was telling my kids, I used to joke with my kids and tell them that y'all really living good. They're living good. I said, yeah. I said, we are lucky and we got 3 or 4 pair of pants for the whole school year, and that was it. And you know, and it take about another school year to get 3 or 4 more other pants.
Outgrow them. You got to outgrow them.
Yes, and we had to take them off when we came home and throw on something to play. You know, play it. My sons get a kick out of it. I said, yeah, we used to wear shoes with cardboard in it and paint the bottom up because it get a hole in it. And sometimes we didn't have, my parents had the money to put the sole on, you know, put that cardboard up in there, put that polish on the bottom, and slide up the steps and be walking up the steps. You want nobody to see you got the hole in the shoe, because if it gets shredded, you can see that's the cardboard there. Right. I said, these are things we when I grew up under, you know, where now kids today, they don't usually talk about changing t-shirts. They throw that away and buy them another one.
Right.
You know, so, you know, changes.
There was another question that I have for you before you left. I just had it. Oh, no, it wasn't a question. It was more of a statement. You know, because I looked up like how often, you know, if you take care of a garment, how often would it, you know, how long would it last you? And on the average, it said, you know, if you took really good care of it, 15 to 20 years, right? But remembering in those times that the way they wash garments, you know, beating garments into stones and maybe not having, you know, they didn't have time to be spinning wool or doing anything like that out there. So they weren't really producing any new garments. So that was I guess the blessing and the miracle in itself, to see that the garment did not wear away or didn't even fade. Because if you use a uniform, right, and you consistently use uniform, let's say you got 5 pair of pants, eventually, if you put those 5 pair of pants on, you know, every day out of the week or however you use them, you might use the same pair of pants maybe three days out of the week, but eventually in 2 to 3 years after washing and doing all these things, you begin to get holes in them. It begins to wear away. So the blessing and the miracle and what happened, you know what I'm saying? It makes it even bigger, because we could see,
the Creator preserved them. And one of the things too is that the type of material they had was, you know, now the fine, super fine stuff, they might only wear on Shabbat, and most times in the wilderness they're sitting still, chilling. They might step out every now and then, you know, and you know, meet a neighbor or a friend close by, something like that, and then go back in their tent. So it's not, we're not going to the park, we ain't going to the lake, we ain't going this way. You know, we would say our prayers, we're going, we might be dressed and going back in and chill the rest of the day. Whereas and then also the quality of even the jeans, the regular jeans when we came up, was better than the quality of the jeans today. You know, for most part, it was like they're a lot more, and the quality of the shirts and the quality of the material and stuff like that. Now they're charging a lot of money for those type of things today. You know, I remember in the 70s when we was getting early 70s, we was getting tailor-made clothes from Benny's. I came to change our wardrobe up a little bit, and super fine worsted mohair. You know, it says right on there, super fine worsted mohair. It was like $28 a yard, and it would last and last and last and last. You actually outgrow it. You know, I mean, you actually outgrow it, or it gets, or it might get stained. It might get stained up, or whatever the case is. But they last for a long time. You know, I lost a few of them just in traveling from here to there. But normally they last a very, very long time. So it's the quality of the material too, because you got cotton that's one level and you got cotton that's another level. You know, the same thing with linen. You can have linen on one level and you can have linen on another level, and wool on one level and wool on another level. So it depends on, that's why I talk about super fine or fine linen, fine twine linen and stuff like that. So we have different qualities, but that is a uniqueness in that the Creator kept our clothes on and we didn't even notice it and didn't even have a want. So we had no want for anything in the wilderness.
One last question, right? Because I was in a discussion the other day, and just this is a question of history, right? I know that Tabernacle of Israel, I believe it was called, right? Tabernacle of Israel. That's where Nasik
905 gates.
Right. I know that they kind of had the women, because I seen pictures of their women like having that Eastern kind of dress, cultural type of dress. But I also seen the men wore suits and ties and things of this nature. But in terms of tailor-made cut garments and all that, where did that originate? Did that originate with Ben King, or was it from somewhere else? That tailor-made look.
Well, you're talking about more conservative look tailor-made Eastern Lights garment, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, to tell you the truth, I I would give it. I gave it to your father-in-law.
Who, Chief
You know, I mean,
Amos?
the late Chief Amos.
Okay.
Yes, and that style, because in the '70s when we changed, it started doing it over.
Right.
So, you know, as a matter of record, you know.
Okay.
Now, I mean, brothers had, you know, they started getting garments cut up and stuff like that, but looked at, you know, more, you know, African, Eastern, whatever the case is. But I'm saying more of a conservative, solid color.
Right.
You know, mostly solid color, mostly you know, high-end wool, high-end mohair, stuff like that. That's era. That's the era I'm talking about in early '70s. You know, and Benny King. And what happened was when Amos got it, because you know it was harder to get a lot of good African stuff that people wanted to wear. You know, back then at that time, you're just getting tops now. Most brothers didn't want to wear the pants. You know, they just want tops. So and so some sisters could sew, some sisters couldn't sew. So I almost had to tell it. I think Aaron was from Trinity. I'm not sure.
Right.
And he made a garment, and then Prince Yaakov, bless his memory, he seen it. He said, "Oh, me boy, like that. You know, who did that for you?" After that, it became Benny King fashion.
It was an outfit race after that, right?
Oh man, it kept a lot of us broke too. but you know, even back in that time, because $25 or $28 a yard, and you're talking about the early '70s.
Right.
You know, you lucky you could get a garment every 2 months, if you know what I mean. You know, like at that price, because that's just to buy the material. And the guy, you know, we working a deal, so all of us getting the pretty much same cut. And you know, and Prince said that, Prince Yaakov said, to make us look different from the guys that was on the corners now, because they already had turbans.
Right.
You know, and they wearing all that stuff, and some of the brothers used to wear that and Benny King, the way they used to look. So they said to make us look a lot different from them. So, you know, and you know, and be more accepted in say other societies, other areas. So we had more of a conservative look. So but that's actually where it's from, Chief Amos, from Panama and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, if I had to give credit to somebody, I had to give it to your late father-in-law.
And as far as culture in Israel as Israelites, where did that begin? Like just culture, not so much the conservative Eastern look, but just culture. Putting on garments and stuff like that.
Well, the culture for women pretty much was a tabernacle. That's pretty much Benny just took it to another level.
Right.
But the men, Prince Yaakov, and that's strictly Benny King. That's strictly Benny King. I know I myself as a young man, I know a lot of guys that people look up to that was still wearing suits and ties. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I know firsthand, not secondhand. You know, so
you seen it with your own eyes.
They knew me, I know them.
Right.
And I've been a lot younger than them, but they knew me personally because what happens, I met every different leaders. You know, I mean,
right.
You know, the late Hakon Levy. You know, I mean, I know these guys. You know, even before he had hot shop on Gates Avenue.
Okay.
All right, that's fact. Even before that, you know, he had the place on Gates Avenue. So it's not that I need to make up anything.
I know what you're saying. Right.
You know?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I just wanted to clarify that for history's sake, because sometimes things get lost in history, and you have to go to the
reinterpret.
Right. They reinterpret history, and you just have to kind of get the people that were there and confirm what the actual history was.
Maybe creative show me some mercy, because I was there and say, well, maybe I can make a living testimony. And not only me, it's still some people still around that could testify to it, because you got Imam Torah to go to Beit Shalom.
Right.
Even though Khalil is young, she started in Benny King. Her brother started in Benny King. Right. They could testify to that. You had Yabez, who's still around to go to Beit Shalom. The Chief Joshua's brother, and Chief Joshua lived down in Hastings, Florida, which is about less than an hour from me. So it's still
like Gavert Shakur was there too, right?
Right, exactly. So you still got a lot of people that testify to what I'm saying. Principal Baal up in New York,
Okay.
So it's still quite a few people around, and they got Prince Aryeh in Chicago.
Right.
There's so many guys that's around now for BINAH YAH, but most people don't know them. They don't get the notoriety, but these actually are pioneers and my peers, from BINAH YAH. So so these are like real exponents of BINAH YAH. Prince Aryeh, I sent.
Princess Miriam, you still got Princess Miriam around?
Right, exactly. But Prince Aryeh, reason I point him out because he's from New York and was transplanted to Chicago.
Okay.
But other brothers, basically been in Chicago.
Torah, Nasik, you always thank you for breaking down of last week or highlighting last week's Sidra, and also for sharing the history with us. Sometimes when I get into different things and I need to confirm things solidly, I have to come to you because you are the source. And I know a lot of this you gave me in the interviews, but sometimes I just want to keep track of the history so that way we won't be confused to what the history is, and we understand exactly how things went back in the day.
Well, I ain't trying to change the history. I mean, if I could, I would.
But you ain't just definitely.
It is what it is, you know what I mean? The good, the bad, the ugly, you know what I mean? But the thing is, you got through it.
Hallelujah.
All right, so everybody have a good
Torah, Nasik, may the Most High God bless you. Shalom, shalom.
All of us. Shalom.